is very far away. There is an ocean between you. So is it hard to raise a baby while away from your own family?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously we have Ben's family quite close by, and I love his family, get along with them really well. So I feel really lucky in that way. And they're incredibly supportive, and they were always happy to come before COVID and everything happened. They were always happy to come and help and watch Campbell for a day so I could go and do things when I was on maternity leave that I needed to do. So, yeah, but my parents it is hard having my parents far away, because as much as I love Ben's family, it's not the same as, you know, having your family. Like if I woke up and was just having like a miserable day with Campbell and I just needed a break or time away, I could call my mom and be like, are you around this afternoon? Can I just drop Campbell off for an hour just so I can have some space or something like that? I wouldn't do that really with Ben's mom unless I was really at a breaking point, because it's just not the same as your mom, you know? And I think, you know, with COVID, it was difficult in ways because Ben's dad is really high risk. And so we've not really seen them. They haven't been able to come and watch Campbell or anything like that, even when things were a bit looser. Whereas I know that if we had been living close to my parents, probably just form a bubble. Yeah. I mean, my mom would beg me or demand to form a bubble, even if I was reluctant to do it. You know, and I would have that additional support with Campbell. And also it makes me sad that they don't get to see.
I know. It's the memories.
This right? much of her. But my parents are always happy to travel over, visit. So if it wasn't for COVID, we probably would have seen them several times. But it's not the same as just getting that kind of like everyday life together. So it's hard, and yes and no. But we always have somewhere to travel to now.
You do, which is amazing. Absolutely. So you have a sister who also has a son, right? So is she close? I mean, in terms of distance to your parents, does she get that?
No, we're all spread out. She's in Florida, but my parents go and stay at a condo in her building. She lives right on the beach quite regularly. And so then they see my nephew, Oscar, a lot.
That's a bit easier, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's just, I mean, this is probably long for some people, but for us, it's not long. It's like an 8-hour drive. So that's nothing when you're in the States. Just get in the car, drive down. So they can go for even like long weekends and stuff like that. They're happy to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've mentioned that Ben's parents help a lot, or when they could, they did. Do you think they are a little bit of a different set of grandparents than your parents would be? Do you notice any sort of cultural differences, or even the differences coming from the fact that they are the mom's parents rather than the dad's parents? Like, do you see anything like that?
Not really. I think that the only difference that there would be is that it is different. Like, I'm Campbell's mother and I'm their daughter-in-law. And so I think that they probably, with me, feel a bit more conscious of probably not wanting to step on my toes, even though I can't imagine that they, you know, ever would in any way. But I think it's probably a bit different for them than it is for Ben's sister, who had a baby last January. It's much easier for them to kind of, I'm sure it is just more relaxing for them. Because
there is a little bit less distance, isn't there?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Anyways, cool. Very good. Lovely. And so in your own parenting or in your own motherhood, are there any things that you kind of consciously or subconsciously try to avoid?
Yes, I would say I grew up in a house that a lot of emotions are expressed through anger and yelling, which is something in ways like I think it has taught me some things. Like I'm not afraid to express my emotions or frustrations a lot of times, whereas like Ben's from a family, they're very polite. You would never raise your voice, but then I think things stay bottled up a lot. Like, I don't keep things bottled up, which I think is good, but I do not want to have a house with yelling. Don't want to. I mean, I'm sure obviously I'll yell sometimes. I don't think there's any parent in the world that has ever not yelled, but I don't want to.
If there is, they are lying.
Yeah. I don't want to ever regularly yell and get frustrated and express any frustrations I have towards Campbell or in my life by yelling at Campbell. Because I'm sure there were plenty of times growing up my parents were frustrated. And it's not like they just screamed at us all the time. But raised voices were a very common thing. And that's something I don't want it to be a common thing. I want it to, if a voice is raised, I want it to mean something. I want it to be for a reason. That's what I hope. And then being with Ben, I think that will actually be quite helpful. I think we'll help each other kind of in that way, because Ben grew up in a house where you did express things so calmly and you wouldn't ever yell at somebody that's, disrespectful. I really like that. And I know that if he saw me just yelling for no reason, he would absolutely tell me, that's not okay. You can't do that. And I'd appreciate that. And I think I've learned so much from his ability to always stay calm. That I think that will help me do that. That's definitely one thing that I want to avoid.
That's quite lucky for you as parents, because you kind of seem to complement each other in a lot of ways. If you're a little bit more expressive and he calms you down, but maybe when there are times when he would have actually trouble expressing his actual emotions, and maybe you push him to do that, possibly. I don't know, I'm just guessing, but it's good for your daughter to see both sides. I think it's quite lucky, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. And then one main thing that is the number one most important thing to me in parenting is I never, ever, ever want to ever make a comment about my child, but especially my daughter's like body or weight gain or anything like that. Comments like that were made to me a lot when I was growing up. Even when I look back and I just think, that is insane. And from, people growing up in a different generation, a different attitude about things like that. But it really caused me to have, I think, a really bad relationship with food for a really long time. And my weight would go up and down a lot. And I attribute that exactly to comments like that being made about my body when, they just never ever should be made. And that's like one of the main things that is most important to me. I always want to make Campbell and any other children I have always feel like they are strong and beautiful and confident, and I don't want them to ever think I ever even notice.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so important.
And it's when somebody gains weight, and like when I gained weight as a teenager going through puberty and things like that, and even after, it's like they always know. It never needs to be pointed out to somebody if they've gained weight. The person who's gained weight knows.
Exactly.
And then by mentioning it, they're just going to think about it more and realize how everybody else knows.
To be honest, I find it's my pet peeve even when people say that somebody's lost weight, because that means that they've been watching you. They know that you used to be like, there is like two sides of this coin. I find it, it's a really, really important issue for me. I haven't been thinking about it just naturally because I have a son, but obviously there were lots of things done to me as well that completely screwed up my bodily self-esteem and definitely.
Yeah, like I want to always do whatever I can to encourage Campbell to have a really positive body image, because that when you don't, that bleeds into other areas of your life. That confidence, and that kind of confidence is knocked, it can just knock you down in so many areas. And it's so true. You should never comment if somebody's lost weight either. Obviously, if it's looking like it's becoming a dangerous situation, you have to be careful about things like that. But
exactly,
generally speaking, I just don't think anything should ever be said about that. And that's kind of like, that's like one goal, one thing I want to do differently. That's something, it's really, really, really important to
That's
me.
great. That's great. And it's great that you even, like, obviously she's 18 months old. So, although I do know people and moms who obsess about their kids' weight at this age already. So, like, thinking about it can start at any time. But, having the awareness and then not saying things that are like, lots of people think that what we say to young kids, that it doesn't stay, it doesn't stick, but Christ's sake, it does. Just like, I was talking in my first episode, I was talking about raising boys, telling them to, grow a pair or man up, or boys don't cry, like all those things stick.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with girls, telling a girl that, oh, wow, look at your curves, because a girl is going through puberty. Like, this can do something and damage people or like, really hurt.
Yeah. I mean, those things, those comments, they never leave people's minds.
No, they never do. It's also sad that you've learned it the hard way, that you had to experience that at some point to realize that, oh, I'm never going to do it. But, still, it's important that, you do think that in terms of your own parenting now. Yeah. So is there anything else that is your sort of ambition when it comes to raising Campbell?
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying not to obsess over her, like hitting milestones and at the same time other kids are, or if I think she's, a bit behind, things like that. I think, obviously, I have stressed about it. I think every parent stresses about it, just because you're worried. You want to make sure that
they're okay, right?
They're okay. But I'm like, I've stressed about her not talking really that much yet at this point. She was talking, she's kind of stopped, but she talks really in her own way for now, and she just understands everything that I say. So every time I start talking to Ben about it, he's like, remember, it's fine. That's a small thing, and obviously everything will come as time. But I mean, think that will feed into when she's older, like, oh, well, why did Sally Sue do this, and why didn't you do that? Or even if I don't say it to her, if I'm like stressing about it myself.
Exactly. Oh my God. Like, I was just going to say that. Isn't that exactly what you were talking about? The academic expectations, now expecting them to speak at 18 months and then expecting them to get an A in a subject that they are just simply crap at, and they have every right to be, same. I feel it so much because, I was constantly being compared when at school to other kids, and like, why can't you get A's like whoever else? It is sad. And then, it's sad that our generation grew up into being like really either stressed grown-ups who feel that they have to prove something. They never think that they are good enough at anything, whether it is body image or academia or whatever. So it's quite important to be talking about it and thinking about it.
Yeah.